Hey, it's Whoops here, and it's time to go over the Mercenaries news that actually came out with this balance patch. Most of these are actually buffs to the Mercenaries, so let's look at how they were individually buffed. The first one being Alexstrasza, which has her third ability, Dragon Queen's Gambit, have a cooldown of 1 instead of 2. This is actually a pretty good change for her tasks because there are some very frustrating tasks that you can actually have with Alexstrasza because of the 2 cooldown ability. However, besides that, I don't know if this will actually impact her usability in PvP, which is kind of sad to say, but is a change that was very much needed if she was ever going to be relevant there. Honestly, I think this ability is just a little bit too slow for it actually to be used in PvP. The next change is to the Lich King, who is having his Death Coil ability also have a reduced cooldown to 0 this time, which actually makes him really good in shadow-based teams, just because you can do some damage to your opponent or heal an individual character, which shadow-based teams do kind of lack outside of Azara currently, and Sinestra for herself. This also does increase the diversity that you could possibly have in a shadow-based team. However, with Yoshiraj actually being a mercenary that actually is seeing a lot of play right now, I don't know if you would want to use Lich King over someone like him, and this is a really cool change overall. I do think this does have the weakness though, that I don't think there's any equipments that actually do anything with Death Coil for the Lich King, which means whatever equipment that you actually choose to use on him is just going to be completely useless. But again, a really cool change to see and does have a lot of potential for the future. Yulon is getting her second ability, have a cooldown of 0, which is the ability to block, taunt, and stealth on all other characters for 2 turns, and you gain additional HP for all your individual characters. Honestly, this has a real big potential to actually be very, very relevant, especially with Valeera actually existing. If you are running against a lot of Valeera comps, this is just going to be a permanent unstealth for Valeera and does future-proof for any other stealth-based shenanigans that might actually happen in the PvP Mercenaries meta. This actually might be one of those changes, like the Trigor change, that will be actually pretty frustrating to play against. It really just depends in the future, but I do think this does have the potential to get out of control really quickly, but it's honestly better than dealing with Valeera as we have been for like the past 6 months. And now for Tidemistress Athena, her first ability is having a speed reduction, which means she's going to have a speed of 6 instead of 7 on it. Really good change overall. She is a little bit of a slower mercenary, though the whole idea of Naga seemed to be slower abilities, but it is actually pretty cool to see this just because it does give some potential for some frost combos or some other type of combos that you could actually do with this. And her second ability is having a cooldown of 0 instead of 1. Honestly, something that should have been in the game from the beginning, but it is what it is. We're getting it now, so that's pretty decent. Rexxar is getting an additional 10 HP. Really cool to see for beast-based teams. Don't know how relevant this is actually going to make him in the end, but we might see something now that he has a little bit of additional HP pool. Xuen is also getting buffed. His first ability, Equalizing Strike, is going to have a speed of 5 instead of 7. This is honestly one of those abilities that will probably never actually get used because his second ability is just so strong. I get what they're trying to do here, but again, his second ability and third ability are what makes Xuen really good. And honestly, this is something that I don't think will change too much. He's already too squishy. We are seeing, though, that Yoshiraj is seeing a lot of potential play, and he is basically just a shadow version of Xuen. But again, I think this one is just not a good enough change to make Xuen any more playable. Captain Hooktus, Cutthroat Negotiation, is getting a speed of 2 instead of 7, which is an absolutely insane difference. However, Hooktus is one of those mercenaries that is really frustrating to actually try to use in any type of build, as you can't just use the same abilities over and over. Sure, she had a lot of potential to actually just swap her role back and forth on a given mercenary, but she is very gimmicky and honestly is one of the weaker mercenaries that you could actually have on a team. Whenever Maiev actually gets fixed, Maiev is just a way better Hooktus, and I don't think the change to her third ability, having a speed of 2 instead of 7, is actually going to do anything. Finally, Uther is getting a change to his Blessing of Protection ability to have a speed of 1 instead of 3, which overall actually does impact him a lot. I do think this actually gives him a lot more potential to just give taunt to whoever you actually want. And if you remember, I did a taunt-based mercenary team with Vander a few months back, where I actually abused the fact that Uther could give anyone taunt, and that was actually a really fun little combo to actually try to do, as this does allow you to give taunt to a mercenary really quickly if there is still a lot of speed manipulation within the metagame. And honestly, I think this is probably a pretty good change overall, though I do think Yulon's change is probably going to make this one completely useless. Alright, so let me know down below which mercenaries you're looking most forward to their changes and which ones you're most frightful for. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.